This is building 2 images or 3 images with Docker. First for Flask, which then gets used as a base layer for a testing image and also for debug imaging. The link to this repo is in the description below. So go and clone it as is, and you should end up, as I have here, my repo. In the instructions, we have first thing though to set up is git clone, cd into the folder, create a virtual environment if you want. Mine is here. We're going to build the Flask image, and we'll build everything. You'll be able to see it and see the endpoints, and we can discuss it later. So cd into multi-stage. All the file commands are in a command file here, but I put them into the README for us here. So we go into, and we now build an image of the Flask file. We'll go into this later, but it's just forming factors with a few endpoints in Flask. We'll see it once it's ready. So let's firstly build it. Make sure you've got Docker running. So if I build that here, if I bring over my Docker desktop, you can see it produces an image of the Flask PDB. So let's see it in operation. So let's run an instance of this container on port 5000. If we do that and run it, spits out. I've done here, what it does, it works out the factors in these numbers. If you click on, say, this small one here, this will open up. And there it prints it out and the time, for example. And you can also do a slightly slower one depending on the speed of your machine. So that's all the endpoint's doing. You give it an integer number and it works out the factors and computes the time. It's not really of any importance what the Flask app's actually doing. So we now have in our Docker desktop, we now have that image, base image. So let's come back, do Control C. We don't need it running. Now cd ... to build the test image, cd simple tests. Move into that. We're going to build the test image, and if we have a look at it, what we have, we've got a little sort of shell script that's basically setting up our reports, doing PyLint, running PyTest. I'm disabling warnings because I haven't been able to get rid of them any other way. Does a coverage report. It's going to create some reports for us into an output folder. This is a shell script here. It has the requirements that we need there. That was an error of our PyLint, PyTest, etc. So if we go back to the README here, we're going to build that tester image. Have we already done that? I've forgotten. No, we haven't done that. So if I do that, paste that in. And don't forget the little dot at the end here, if you missed that. That's going to be building that. And now we can see we have the tester image. So what we can now do is, now that we're there, is actually run it. So it does all the tests and prints the reports into the container. So if we run that, loading everything from requirements.test, it's really going through this script here of running PyLint, running PyTest. Hasn't found a file size using default configuration. Running PyTest now, over here. Putting everything out into the 8. Before of them have passed. The tests are not really that important, but they're just sort of basic tests. We're just testing the endpoint when we send through numbers on our Flask app, which is built into this image. So we've got test reports now. So if we go into our folder here, and if we go into simple tests, test reports, the PyLint, and we've also got the HTML report. Finally, we're just going to see the debugger. So CLS, We've done that. Everything's running. Everything's will be closed down. So if we come back into our README, we're going to now do the debug image. Note, we've got a PDBRC file, which is setting 2 breakpoints at line 22 and 82. And if we go into README here, let's build this debug image with the dot. Again, if we come into Docker Dostup, we now DC factors Flask debug image. All we now need to do is run that container, run a container from it, and it will have those breakpoints. So if we run that, my mistake, I've renamed. I'll put that back up. I just renamed everything like this. Let's just do this again. Rather than tagging it, I made them as separate. So we can see breakpoint 1, breakpoint 2, line 22 and 82 is being read. We're in PDB. So if we do C to continue, C to continue, you could either do Q if you wanted to do that. We can actually, if we go here now into port 5000, while it's loaded up, we can now see that when we're in here, if we do a number, it prints the results in 2 seconds. That was quite a long number. So if we just do 11111, it'd be much quicker. So while we're in here, this is actually running the endpoint. We can see that we've got the Flask app running as before, but it's built into an image. And a few little interesting points. If you notice, there's dockerfile.tester.debug. It's easier to just use a -f flag to load in the specific Docker file, rather than having just a Docker file and doing and copying over all the other Docker files into it as and when you need it. We can now have all of them here and just load the one we want with a -f. The --build arg is important because if we go into the Docker file tester, we can pass in an argument before from the command line into the from. From must usually be the very first command, but it does allow in Docker arg. So that's how we can customize our build with a --build -arg and pass in the base image variable and what one we're using. So if we come back here, we can see where it's the base image. We can do from that. It's sort of shell scripting with Docker. We're setting up a reports folder, volume data, tests, running the tester script, installing requirements, setting our reports folder, running PyLint, running PyTest. That shell scripting. The purpose of the video is to show how we can sort of build a PyTest, an application in Docker, use it as a layer in a PyTest image, and run tests and also debug. So I leave that there. One other thing is the links also explain if you want some more my own information at PyTest Cookbook. It's a Docker PyTest image. Not really any more information there, but here is a lot of references for different things. So I hope you found that useful.